Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today, I'll be talking about K-pop groups that I will never stan, or at least ones that I really doubt I will in the future. There's quite a few groups that I don't really go out of my way to mention on my channel, and some of them have pretty big fan bases, so I get questions of why I don't talk about them quite a bit. Sometimes, to be honest, it's just because I don't really remember them, but most of the time, it's because those are groups that I don't have that many positive things to say about them. On my channel, I usually stick to the rule where if I don't like a group, then I won't try to critique them because I feel like it'll turn into an unfairly biased opinion. So even when I make videos such as the worst comebacks of this year or something along those lines that are pretty negative, I usually exclude groups that I'm not partial towards in order to keep things civil. But even still, people always ask why I don't mention certain groups in my videos, so I thought it would be fun to kind of shed some light on that today. I have 8 different sections dedicated to 8 different groups in this video, and in each section I'll explain why I don't see myself standing these groups in the future. So hopefully all questions in that regard will be answered here. Before we start, I'd like to give a shout out to all of our new channel members: Elizabeth Allinger, Adrian Wang, Julia, 97th Heaven, I.O.I, WJSN Enjoyer, Alex Toro, Minacor, Soda Scribbles TikTok, Navi Slay, and Mares. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel, and without further ado, let's get into group number 1. So first off, we're going to be starting with Fromis_9, and my reasoning for not wanting to stan Fromis is a little bit different from the rest of the groups in this video. I'm a huge enjoyer of Fromis' music. I even put DM in my video where I talked about my 10 favorite comebacks of the year so far, and for a while they were on my casual stan list, but a little bit after that I took them off, and I'm a little bit scared of putting them back on right now, which is mostly because I don't know what their future looks like in the idol industry. For those who don't know, just last month member Gyuri ended up leaving the group, and it came as a huge blindside to most of their fans. It's been speculated that Gyuri left because she wants to focus on her acting career, but that hasn't been confirmed, and since Fromis is currently managed by Playtis and Hybe, combined with both of those companies' history of managing girl groups, right now I'm wary of putting them on my stan list because I'm scared that more bad things are going to happen to the group in the future. In the past, both of these companies have both mismanaged the girl groups that they've had, and have been painfully silent when it comes to communicating with their fans as to what's happening behind the scenes. So considering how similar to G-Friend's disbandment or Pristin's inactivity, Gyuri's departure was basically announced with no prior warning, standing Fromis means that you'll have no idea when something bad's about to happen to one of your favorite groups. I like the girls a lot, and I'll definitely continue to be a casual enjoyer of their music, but it's just been proven again that Playtis really has not changed, so I'm not ready to make that leap and really stan Fromis_9 again. Next up, we have Extraordinary Heroes, which is the new band under JYP. One of the biggest reasons why I don't stan Extraordinary Heroes is because I'm usually just not really the biggest fan of bands. The only K-band I would say I stan is Lucy, and I view them as pretty unique and different from other K-bands because they have a violinist. And unfortunately, in my opinion, I think Extraordinary Heroes kind of blend in with the rest of the other K-bands in the industry right now. I think this is mostly because most bands are kind of confined to the same instruments as all of the other ones. So when that is the case, music from groups like Extraordinary Heroes doesn't really stand out from other ones such as And Flying or The Rose or Day 6. A lot of Extraordinary Heroes fans have told me that they feel like their concepts are super unique, and that is totally a valid opinion, but it's not one that I would find myself agreeing with. Both their debut Happy Death Day and their comeback Test Me remind me a lot of And Flying's older work, and seem in a pretty similar vein to And Flying's title tracks such as Hot Potato or The Real. So sadly, nothing that Extraordinary Heroes have done so far has made them stand out to me. It's unfortunate because unlike for idol groups where they're able to work with all of these different producers who have these unique instrumentals for their songs where each one will sound different, bands are confined to the same instruments every single time. And in my opinion, they're a lot more confined in the kind of diversity that they can show, which doesn't draw me in and make me consider becoming a fan. I know the members put so much hard work in everything that they do, and they deserve to have a really solid fan base. Unfortunately, I just don't see myself being a part of said fan base, and that's totally okay. They're just not the group for me, but they'll be the group for somebody else. And if you check them out, that might even be you. Alright, so next up on the list we have EXO, a group that I probably would have stanned if I got into K-pop earlier. For those of you who don't know, I actually only became a K-pop stan in late 2020, like October and November, so I never got to experience EXO while they were in their prime. If I was into K-pop back when they released Growl or Tempo or just one of their other iconic title tracks, then I totally would be standing them right now. But since I became a K-pop fan right before 2021, all that I've experienced with EXO as a group has been Don't Fight the Feeling, which had next to no promotions. And although it's a good song, it doesn't really come close to a lot of their more iconic hits. And with how everything's going with the members right now, it doesn't seem like we're gonna get any EXO content as a full group for a very long time. Since all of the members who have enlisted so far have done so separately, since Xiumin started serving back in 2019, I don't think there's been a single day where the group was able to promote all together. So personally, I don't see much reason to stan EXO right now if I'm gonna have to wait at least like 2.5 years to see them all together again. First of all, that doesn't sound worth my time, and second of all, I doubt I even have the patience for that in the first place. So even though I will listen to an EXO song every now and again, I see no incentive to really say that I stan. And even then, when all of the members are done with their enlistments, I'm kind of doubtful that they'd want to keep being a group after that. I mean, this is just speculation, but I feel like by the time they're all done, some of them might want to like start families and they just won't have the time. Or maybe they could just want to do anything else that isn't idol life. Again, that's just an idea, who knows if it's true or not, but for me, the amount of time that it'll take, combined with the uncertainty if they'll even continue to release music as a full group, really doesn't make me want to stan at all. But most of this is because I just wasn't into K-pop when they were in their golden days. After EXO, we have Aespa, a group where there definitely was a chance that I was going to stan them in the past. Next Level was one of my favorite songs of 2021, and I really liked most of the B-sides off the Savage album, but because ever since their debut there have always been a few songs of theirs that I didn't like, such as Black Mamba or Forever, I never made the conscious decision to stan them, and especially after the pre-releases for their most recent album, since they performed Life is Too Short at Coachella, there's been a slim to 0% chance that I'm gonna stan Aespa in the future. It honestly just boils down to personal preference, and my preference that I don't like most of the stuff that Aespa puts out. Nothing that I've listened to from them has really had that moment where it clicks for me, and though I'm glad so many other people are able to get so much enjoyment from their music, I just can't do the same. It's the combination of the experimental concepts that they do, the Kwangya language that's in so many of their songs, and I don't know, just the general vibe of their music that makes me a little bit uninterested in them, that not only doesn't make me want to stan, but also doesn't make me want to talk about them on my channel that much. Do I love Aespa? No. Do I hate them? Also no. But sadly, they're just not the group for me. So next up, the only solo artist in this video, we have Somi, who I mainly don't stan because of the lack of new music. I mean, she's been active as a solo artist ever since 2019, and somehow she still only has 8 songs to her name. Don't get me wrong, she seems like a lovely person, and every single clip I see of her brings a genuine smile to my face. But for me, if I'm gonna stan an artist, they need to release on average like 6 songs a year, and that's at the very least. And since Somi's solo career has been going on for 4 years now, divide 8 by 4, that's an average of 2. And the thing is, I don't even like every single one of her songs. I like Birthday, Watermelon, Out of My Head, and What You Waitin' For, so if I only counted her songs that I like in that average, that would be 1 per year, which is absolutely not enough. Maybe my standards are just too crazy, but that bar doesn't seem that high to me, and I guess in regards to my own personal preferences, Somi just doesn't meet the mark. But if the career schedule that she has right now works for her, then my opinion really doesn't matter at all. I mean, it appears as if she's enjoying her life, and she's also definitely not overworked, so good for her. What she does right now works for her, and even though that doesn't cater to my own personal tastes, that doesn't matter. Somi's still successful, and I'm happy for her. So our 6th entry on this list is gonna be the one that I feel like most people will be anticipating. It's BTS. And honestly, my reasoning for them is pretty similar to my reasoning for EXO. As I said before, I got into K-pop around November 2020, right before they dropped Life Goes On, which was, you know, not a bad song, a cute little bop right before Christmas, but I think we can all admit it's not their best work ever. And though BTS wasn't the first group I ever listened to, the first one was actually TWICE. As I got more into K-pop, I discovered some of their older releases like Danger, or more specifically the entire Dark and Wild album, and other classics of theirs such as Dope, Blood, Sweat and Tears, Fire, you know, the list goes on. But then I experienced the releases of Butter and Permission to Dance, which kind of gives me the idea of, okay, their newer stuff probably isn't gonna be for me, which definitely made it harder for me to want to stan if I wasn't gonna be that excited for their future works. I did kind of get excited for them again recently when they said they were gonna do solo projects, but my bias in the group is J-Hope, and he had my favorite solo with his first mixtape, and then I didn't really like his most recent album at all. So now, once again, I don't think there's much chance I'll stan BTS in the future. I totally see the validity in the argument that their older stuff is still good, so I can still listen to that and stan them, but I wasn't there to witness the releases of those albums, so I never got the opportunity to get attached to their music or their members. You know, I can listen to their older albums and acknowledge that they're good, but there's no sentimental value there, nothing like that, so I don't have much motivation to stan them now if what they put out nowadays isn't to my liking. Most people who think I should stan BTS are people who were able to witness a huge amount of their careers, but I first got introduced to them when they were kind of slowing down in terms of how much activity they had. And because there's not much for me to grasp onto when it comes to BTS, there's not much reason for me to stan, at least in my opinion. So every section before this one has been pretty lighthearted in nature, but I want to clarify that there is nothing lighthearted about this next section, and everything that I say here I mean. So please don't interpret anything in this section as a joke. Two groups that I can guarantee you right now I will never stand are NewJeans and Classy, both who debuted this year. One of the reasons being that most of the idols in these groups are way too young. Both of these groups have members that were born in 2008, meaning that they're at most 14 right now, and the average ages of both of these groups is well below 18. And I don't like supporting groups when they have members that are so young, especially when some of them are still in middle school. First of all, it's unfair to throw these kids into the idol industry, which is so toxic and unhealthy, because right away there's going to be people saying the most awful things about them, whether that's wishing harm upon them or saying inappropriate things about them that especially shouldn't be said about a child, not to even mention the busy schedules and the sleepless nights that come with being an idol that a kid should not have to deal with. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that because I'm 19 right now, it would absolutely be weird if I wanted to like collect photo cards or create a fan account dedicated to someone who might be like 6 years younger than me. I don't think you have to be under a certain age to enjoy K-pop, but especially once you become an adult, if you're somebody who likes to collect albums and photo cards, I think you have a little bit of a personal responsibility to consider the age of the idols whose merch you want to collect. So if they're a couple years younger than you and they're also a minor, maybe that's where you draw the line. Honestly, I think it's fine to collect albums and photo cards no matter what age you are, but you should be a little bit careful as to what age the idols that you're gushing over are. The final really big point that I wanted to make about Classy and NewJeans is that I won't support them because of the people who were involved in creating these groups. Both Min Heejin, who created NewJeans, and Han Dongchul, who created the survival show that Classy was formed from, both have said some really questionable things in the past that make me both question their morals and also not want to give them my money. I know that all of the members of these groups are just kids who want to pursue their dreams, but I personally would feel really gross if I decided to stan either of these two groups, and at least for me, I wouldn't find it appropriate. Alright, so with that section out of the way, now we can move back to our sort of lighthearted discussions and talk about our channel member choice. So for those of you who don't know, people who either click the first link in the description box or click the join button next to my channel name below, along with access to our exclusive Discord server and other perks, get to vote in polls which choose the group that I'll be covering in the final section of each of my videos. So if you want to be able to influence what I talk about in any of my upcoming videos, consider supporting my channel and becoming a member. And without further ado, the channel member's choice for this video was So there's a couple of main reasons why I don't think I'll ever stan Weeekly in the future. The most obvious one is, of course, the concept change. Like most of you, I was also a bigger fan of Weeekly when they did their school concepts, and their insane change to Girl Crush really just did not make sense at all. But people have dogged on Weeekly for their concept change a million times before, so instead I wanted to talk about something else. And that's that I feel like they have one of the weakest discographies that I've ever heard, if I'm being honest. I've listened to their entire discography, every single B-side, every single title track multiple times, and the only songs that I ended up saving were a couple of their title tracks. And there's genuinely not a single B-side that I would have saved. It's kind of crazy because almost every single other group that I've ever come across, I've been able to find at least one B-side that I really liked, but for some reason Weeekly just weren't able to do that for me. I mean, I want to like their music. When After School first dropped, I wanted to stan them, but once I heard the rest of their discography, I knew that wasn't going to happen. Like how their company decided to just change everything Weeekly had going for them after a few comebacks. Similar to their concept, Weekly's music feels a little bit aimless, too afraid to make any statements with its sound, and also just painfully forgettable. So even if their next comeback is super good and has no skips, it's gonna be a long time before I see myself standing Weeekly because they had such a huge weak spot in their careers when it comes to their music. So it'll take a long chain of strong songs in order to prove me wrong. And that concludes this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did like the video, consider leaving a like, and if you want to see more content from me, consider subscribing. But before you go, I want to thank all 30 of our channel members. Thank you Sanarinth, Opichin ITZY, Jujuman, Wu Twice Tees, Dog, Saiyan Lover, Kyukun Love, What's OP, Zeus112, Flo 099, Goyoungsi, Jackie, AB, ZVH, Che, Ray, Wu Youngie, Yin Latte, Jed, Mares, Navisley, Soda Scribbles TikTok, Minacor, Alex Toro, WJSN Enjoyer, I.O.I, 97th Heaven, Julia, Adrian, Wang, and Elizabeth Allinger. Thank you all so much for supporting my channel. And without further ado, I'll see you guys all next time. Okay, peace out.